Welcome back, everybody. We are running back Tekken Talk so that we can discuss all things Tekken 8. We've had a lot of cool things happen so far, so we're going to take some time to just, sit back, relax, and just talk Tekken. So we have some wonderful guests today. We are joined by none other than the Michael Murray, producer, Tekken Project. We have Rip, commentator for the Tekken World Tour, and also a current pro gamer.
And a former pro.
And we have none other than Maximilian Dude, who has produced fantastic content, video producer. I mean, everybody knows you, right, Max?
Thank you. Hi. Oh, hi. I like Tekken.
All right, so let's get started with our first question. So, as all of you know, we've had a ton of announcements come up with Tekken 8. We've had, you were part of one of the announcements, right?
The Evo announcement.
Yeah. Well, actually, it wasn't really an announcement.
It wasn't. I mean, it was a shock. That's what it was.
Right. It was a teaser. It was a teaser for what was to come. So tell me a little bit about that. What was your reaction to the teaser for Evo?
I'd say that was the most teasery teaser I had ever seen in my life, from visible confusion to more visible confusion, and then actually cleared up when it came back to seeing you guys at Evo, and I was like, oh, I think that's what I think it was. So yes, I'd say that was the most effective teaser of all time, and actually teasing the audience. I was not ready for it to be that early too. I think that was the most surprising thing.
So for us on the production, I think I can talk about this. Like, I'd seen from my commentary perspective, I saw Michael and Harada sitting there like up there. I was like, oh, they're gonna come down later. And then I had no idea, like when it all happened, that's what was happening. Then they came and they were shaking us. So I was like, it's Harada, he's shaking me. That's what my initial reaction. I was thinking later, I was like, I should have shook him and said like, buff law. You know what I mean? That's what I should have done.
It didn't sink in then.
Because I was so shocked. I didn't know what to say. It's like,
It must have been intimidating, like from Rip's view, seeing Michael and Harada just running down.
I didn't even see that part because we were all watching the video, and the next thing they were right beside us, like shaking us. Like,
Their heat rushing down. You're like, what's going on?
It's all surprised. No, that was awesome. Now that I think about it, I think that was my favorite moment.
All that for like a couple of seconds. Yeah, right? That's awesome.
For Kazuya's face.
That's true. But high definition Kazuya face. Going from that old school shot of him smiling and then bursting into like super ultra high definition where you can see like all the details. Amazing.
It was difficult because there's timing of when to show things, and Tekken is a huge game, even more so now that we've sold 10 million copies. A lot of people are invested. So it's not just me and Harada being like, oh, should we show something at Evo? Yeah, cool. Let's do this and this and this. So we really knew that people just couldn't wait any longer. Other games had been showing stuff, and Tekken fans were like angry with pitchforks, right? So, we had I believe it was the esports and the Tekken 7 stuff before that, but we wanted to show at least a glimpse. And I'd actually been trolling people a little bit before that. I had that shirt with the Kazuya face that I like a lot. I think I've seen Rip wear it as well.
I was wearing it that Evo, so I was like, Rip knew. I was like, I had no idea, dude. I just was wearing the shirt.
Smiley Kazuya, right?
Yeah.
Like Tekken 1, okay.
So and I knew the community always kind of loved those little memes and things, and I thought that might be kind of a good intro to show enough that they know that we're actually working on it, so maybe they'll calm down, but not too much that, a lot of our plans might affect it, so.
Yeah, but that was just like we mentioned before, that was just like the smallest piece of Tekken 8 that we had seen so far. Right. And then we had another reveal. We had the PlayStation reveal, which actually revealed Tekken 8, right?
That was crazy.
Yeah, and that had the fight scene, the entire fight scene. So tell me a little bit about that. What were your thoughts? What was running through your mind as you watched that fight scene?
I'd say for me, it was the visual difference between obviously Tekken 7 moving into Tekken 8. I think the striking visual comparison was that, wait, what are we looking at all of a sudden? Like this is the tried and true Bandai Namco logo, Jin and Kazuya fighting, but on a stage and a scale that is way different than before. So at one point I was like, oh, I think this is like story mode stuff. It could possibly be something related to story, because this is like the moment between these guys.
Right.
Like this is the whole point, is that the father versus son battle now continues to the next lineage. And I feel like everyone doing frame by frame analysis, looking at every single, it's the similar, but it's different. Like, and that part is so much fun, right? It's so much fun just finding all the minute details and how much Tekken is going to be changing moving forward into Tekken 8.
Awesome. One of the most recent trailers that we've seen is from the Game Awards, and that revealed Jun Kazama, right? And that also revealed a whole bunch of other characters. What was your reaction when you saw your very first look at that roster.
I mean, the roster was like impressive, obviously, right? It's always fun to see all the old characters return, but for me, it was like the stages. The stages was just so vibrant, like everything was like popping out, right? The stage is exploding, of course. You know, you see, I think at the end of that one, because he is like driving Jin down through the building. Was it the other way around? One of the other.
I think it
one
might
of
have
those
been the
devil
other way
guys.
around.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but regardless, you know, just the destruction all over the place, plus the stages. That's what stood out to me visually, because that first trailer from the PlayStation, you know, again visually was just like a moment with, okay, this is going to look completely different than Tekken 7 does. And now when you go back to Tekken 7, you're like, yeah, I'm waiting for that update, you know.
So, speaking of the characters, we have seen a whole bunch of characters revealed since then, right? And today, both of you have, you know, seen our newest character reveal for Xiao Yu. Tell me a little bit about that. What were your thoughts when you saw Xiao Yu on the screen?
I'd say I'm like, we're looking at these characters that are being added to the game, and a lot of them are the tried and trues, like the classic warriors, you know, between Tekken and the OG characters. And to me, Xiao Yu is the pinnacle T3 character next to like Jin, right? These two have been in Tekken for so long. So to me, it's like, oh, makes perfect sense, right? This play style in the game, this character in the game, this is a legacy thing that even though 3 games into Tekken still is absolutely a legacy thing, because that's where Tekken really changed. And I really think that we still, you know, have a lot more to see in that fashion before we see anything new and crazy, because there's completely new designs, completely new moves, completely new move sets for characters that we haven't really seen too much of before. And that's exciting. I think it's more exciting now than ever to see Tekken characters doing traditionally Tekken things way different than we've seen for the past like 3, maybe even 4 games for the most part.
Yeah. Well, Michael, that actually brings up a great question for you. Tell me a little bit about how the character design has been approached for Tekken 8.
Right. So, I mean, it's been quite different. Everything's been quite different. You know, these guys have been playing for so long, they're probably aware of it, but Tekken has always been a Japanese developed game. It's always been developed for the arcades, which, you know, used to be not only Korea, Japan, and Asia, but it also used to be North America or West Europe, etc. So this is the first time that we're not releasing first in the arcade, right? And this is also, Tekken 7 was extremely popular. It was a well-received game when we released it, but you know, now people are like, they want to see something that really you know, knocks their socks off. So we had to do something quite different. We took all the character models from Tekken 7, discarded everything, the environments, everything. That was even in UE4, now we're in UE5. But we made everything from scratch. The character model, the rigging, all of it, the textures, the environments, everything was made anew. And so it was quite interesting. Like, we've all been working on the team so long, it's like, okay, well, we got to do it, hurry up, you know, make us a Jin model, get to it. And then you look at Jin, you're like, that's not Jin. It's so, you know, Harada and me and the constant everyone, we're tweaking little tiny details about all the character models until they get to where everyone's like, oh, that's Jin. So people just look at it and see Jin, but they don't realize like how much it took to build it from nothing to where it is. And then on top of that, to make it just look amazing compared to anything we've done so far. Just the level of the graphics means that the attention to detail that you have to put into the facial animations and the lighting and the hairstyles and everything is just so much different, right? So, but to see that all come together and see it in motion, and you know, I've been seeing it for so long, but then to actually be able to have them see it and to see their reactions and be like, okay, it was worth a lot of these difficult decisions of starting over. You know, because we can't make everyone wait 5-6 years from now for a new Tekken, right?
Yeah.
So it's a lot of different things that you have to consider moving forward. But I was so happy and relieved at the same time when I saw the reactions. And even today, these guys are, oh my God. And I'm like prompting them or anything, right? I'm just playing Tekken with them. And just to see that excitement, it really makes me confident that people are going to love the game when it comes out.
I love to hear it. So now that you know that they have put all of this detail into every single character that they're revealing for the game, tell me, what is your favorite character so far out of all? I mean, this is such an obvious question for Rip. So let's just go to Max.
Rip, why do you love Nina so much?
Nina Williams, dude, those guns. No, no. I mean, obviously Law, right? Like, he's been my character forever, like over 20 years. But this version of Law is like peak Law. It's amazing. I can't get over it. Like, when I first saw him, I was like, he's too strong. He looks way too buffy. But I don't even notice that part of it at all anymore. It's like the way he's been redesigned, the moveset that he has now, it's like refreshing in a way. Because I felt like even with Tekken 7 going from 6, like incrementally those small changes here and there, but this feels like he's so much different now. It feels like a new character again. And prior to this, honestly, I was telling people, I think in Tekken 8, I might actually try a different character, move away from Law. And now I'm like, no, Law's got way too many cool things. I'm sticking with Law again. So
is that because
excited.
did he get Forest Law stuff as well? Is there are they like mixed together?
They've added like a couple moves from Forest, maybe one for sure. But there's literally entirely new moves that Law didn't have, but also new strategies you can use with Law that didn't exist before either. So it's this new combination of using the character that makes me still interested in using him again.
Awesome. Well, Max, what about you? We've heard from Law fan number 1. What are you the number 1?
Yeah,
Law fan number 2. Watch this.
it comes from a weird place as a Tekken 7, Noctis main, and that play style hasn't exactly been represented yet in the game. But I would say the Jin trailer turned a lot of heads, and it did the same thing for me. Jin was a character that was obviously, I'm one of those weird guys that was like a Tekken 3 and Tekken Tag Jin fan, and then his playstyle got kind of changed in 4, and then came back in the form of Devil Jin later on. So I didn't like Devil Jin. I just didn't like the horns.
What?
It's just I'm sorry.
All
Just didn't like the horns.
Blasphemy.
A real
So
Jin
I
fan.
had a character crisis for a long time, and I just couldn't find a character to essentially hover on. There was Lars in Tekken 6 and Noctis in Tekken 7, but the new Jin trailer really did a lot for me. And it seemed like a lot of his gameplay was being consolidated in ways to make Devil Jin moves combine with this one, because it's clear that Jin is merging with two personalities kind of now. And after putting some time in and getting to check out the character, it feels like Jin is a much more approachable version of the character that I was kind of looking for. That I can feel a little bit of stuff in June and all these other characters that Jin kind of had before, but now it's like, this dude feels really unique. And I like it. I feel like I'm playing a completely different character.
Well, you remember why, right? I mean, if people played 7, the story arc saw that Jin has always been different from Kazuya, that he couldn't really control his powers, right? He would just get totally pissed off and, he had access to it. But we saw him slowly gain control over the powers, right? So that's why you see that kind of transition there.
You made Jin a good guy, right? And it was kind of a big thing for I don't know why. Like I would never like Kazuya because he's a bad guy. He's a bad dad, bad guy, man. So I love
bad guys.
I Tekken loves bad guys. So I just like seeing Jin have a story arc and come around. So weird things like that will have an impression on me.
Let me ask you, not them. Do you think Devil Jin will be in this game?
I don't.
You don't?
I don't. I'm gonna make a hard call.
I know there's a community discussion about whether the characters can be in the game or not.
I don't think there's enough Devil Jin in this version of Jin where maybe that isn't in existence, but I think that I'm gonna make a bold call here that I think Jin's gonna be like
he's gonna be just Jin, right?
He's just Jin.
I'm leaning that way too, I think.
All right.
But I want to see Devil Jin back.
Money down.
Michael, do you have anything to say about this?
Jin is just so cool this time around. I haven't really played Jin, the normal Jin, by himself that much. I mean, occasionally, but not a main character. But the way he looks is just amazing. I mean, obviously Harada and myself and Nakatsu say we would like this and that, but then the way the artists interpret that and do it, it might be somewhat different, right? But this time when I saw the Devil Wing, that kind of red glow where it comes in and then fades out, and just little things like that, his rage arts, I just fell in love with the character. I'm like, wow, this guy is awesome. So even if Devil Jin didn't make it, that'd probably be my new character. But I don't know. I always loved that character, Devil Jin. Who knows? We'll see.
Okay. Well, Max and Rip, we have Michael stuck here in this room with us. We have Harada-san maybe outside, so it's time to manifest right now. No guarantees here, but I want to know, who do you want to see in Tekken 8?
I'd say, for me personally, obviously I really dug Noctis' playstyle just because it was so flashy, right? Final Fantasy 15 was a cool game and Noctis was an okay character, but that playstyle was just like, wow, this is a Soul Calibur character in Tekken right now is what it felt like. And being able to accomplish that feel I thought was really, really incredible. So I just stuck with the character for the longest time. I would like to say I'd be excited for something like that, like a playstyle that utilizes that. And we've already seen in Tekken 8 that the use of weapons in some situations, while traditionally not all over the place in Tekken, happens a bit more now. Nunchucks and guns and all these kind of really cool accoutrements that might not have been seen before. So I'd say for me personally, the guest characters in Tekken 7 were really something special. And it blew that game up into a degree that launched it into the stratosphere, right? So I would be really excited just to see whatever could possibly show up in Tekken 8.
All right, so Michael, you heard him. They love guest characters. But tell me, what Tekken mainstay character would you most want to see?
That one's easy for me. It's Bruce. Like Josie's cool and all, but I just can't stand her crying. If you guys make her stop crying, maybe Josie can stick around, but maybe Bruce can come mentor her or something, you know? But she needs the back 2 if she's sticking around. Bruce's back 2 is like, it's an iconic Tekken that's just been missing. Yeah, it feels great. And
Maybe
it's
we
just
just get
missing right
fuck from that maybe then, huh? No?
Let's not talk about him again. I don't think he needs to come back, you know, but Bruce would be good. You know, Bruce would be good.
I'm gonna have to stick up for my friend Kenny Unruly, and have to say that Eddie Gordo is a mainstay, like he should be in main roster. You don't have to wait for him. Maybe if he actually shows up in some way, I'm gonna stick up for him. Eddie, it's weird to have like a Tekken game and Eddie isn't there, and even though he was there at the launch of Tekken 7 for sure on console, but the
For
early
Tekken 3,
versions,
he was so iconic too.
exactly.
Yeah, I get it.
And the early versions of Tekken 7, which were arcade based, it took a while for the character to eventually show up. So I'm gonna stick with him. I think Eddie, it really feels like Tekken when Eddie shows up.
And a lot of people still want Christy too.
I'm gonna say you're one of those guys.
No, I'm not. That's a lot of people, not me. But it's fine either way.
Yeah, I mean they're both unique characters. Eddie, I've always liked too. You know that he was one of the poster boys for Tekken 3, and Harada and I have often had people tell me they started Capoeira because they liked
That's
Eddie
amazing.
so much, right? So just to see that, even from people when we went to Brazil, they said that it's pretty amazing. So I mean, we'll see. It depends on how many fans there are. It's not like Harada and I just like pull it out of a hat or our personal preferences. It depends on.
It's always Ganryu.
It's always about how many people actually want to see the character back, and that determines not only if they show up or not, but what kind of order as well. So we'll
Forest
see.
Law has a chance.
You said that, not me.
Well, there's a lot of characters that could possibly be in the game. So, I mean, everybody send your hopes, or maybe, I don't know, tweet at them or something.
Yeah,
Get
definitely.
Get your
I mean,
request in.
Sometimes maybe Harada and I haven't thought of a particular person, so it's probably more effective to say someone new than rather to keep tweeting the same person over and over. So just an idea, but you know, we're open to ideas. So
Hashtag where's Kuma?
Kuma, yeah, he did win the 2018
He was a world champion.
Right. Yes. He is a world champion. Well, speaking of actually playing the game, both of you have had the opportunity to get hands-on with the game today. So tell me, what was that like? What are your initial thoughts and feelings about Tekken 8 as to how it feels?
Speak freely. I'm not gonna like punch you or anything.
We need to end this
This is a heat
so we
rush
don't
right
play
now.
back. Yes. No, honestly, I think that Tekken 8 feels a lot. It's very similar to Tekken 7, right? Like I think when you watching all the trailers, it's like this heat system is going to play out this way. You're thinking in your head how it's going to play out, but I think the more you play, you realize the heat system is more about just the combo system. And there's obviously a lot of like life bar management you can do with it now because of the gray life change. So the recoverable gauge playing a factor in there with heat, like learning how that flows in a match. I think that's gonna take a little bit of time, but it's fun. I mean, we're screaming in there. That's how it goes. You know, it's just natural Tekken. It feels like Tekken, so it still has that same solid Tekken feel, except there's a bunch of new stuff to play with, tons of new stuff, and it looks way pretty too.
Yeah, and I was talking to Michael a bit about this when we were playing some matches, how one of the things that gripes me with a lot of fighting games over the past 10 years has been how they approach accessibility. And a lot of them approach accessibility by just taking things away, by simplifying things to a degree that we're just going to remove like the meat of the character, and now you have the bones. So it's like, okay, I get it. They're refining what the game feels like. In this situation, right, obviously your experience with Tekken is going to help you a lot going forward into Tekken 8.
Right.
So I would highly recommend you would play games like Tekken 7. But the wonderful thing about it is that Tekken 8 is a game that approaches accessibility the way that I love it. You can make things more accessible, but you have to expand. You have to add the things that you can do. You have to tease your imagination with what's capable and possible that characters can pull off, much less your system can pull off.
Right.
And 8 is doing that in a way that I was like, wait, I can do this. Wait, you can do that. Wait a minute, you can do combos the same way as 7, but I can now add this and this and this. And it was more of like a layer of discovery from one point to the next that just leads you to like, when you leave like a session, you're like, but I could. Wait, and it's one of the most, can be a very disappointing thing with some fighting games where you're like, oh, yeah, I guess I figured it out. Like that was pretty much it. Now it's just doing it correctly, you know?
Right.
So I love that feeling, and Tekken 8's definitely giving me that approach where it's like, oh, I'm just scratching the surface here. Like, oh my gosh.
Big time.
So the keyword that we've heard a lot today from Michael's, Professor Michael's lecture was aggressive. Do you feel that Tekken 8 follows that and is super aggressive in how you play?
So in experimenting with the heat system, like first of all, thanks to the character trailers, right? Because we saw a lot of stuff that was possible in there, especially with like the heat dash. And I didn't really understand how the heat dash worked before, but I understand it better now. And there are moments now when I'm playing and we will do multiple heat dashes in a row and just keep the pressure going. And I'm like, dude, it goes so fast that I'm trying to keep up with what I'm doing myself. You know, I'm like, did I just do that? And then it's like, how much life did I do? Like, how much gray health did I do? And I'm trying to factor it all in, but it's very aggressive because obviously it's like just nonstop boom, boom, boom. And when you get to that kind of a flow, it's so much faster than Tekken 7 even feels like at times. And it's very intense because it's obviously always really close action when that happens. So it's fun. I'll say that much for now, you know, but it's definitely aggressive.
Yeah, at first glance, there's way more things you have to pay attention to, right?
Way
Between
more.
gray life and how much heat gauge system did they use? How much do I have?
Yep.
Because I thought the heat gauge was going to be limited. I thought it was going to be like, no, you get only one per set maybe at some point, but no, it's like multiple activations, like once per round. So by the time like 3 rounds are over, there's been a lot of like momentum changing and shifting here and there.
Yeah.
And considering how much you can do within each heat activation, it's like I'm still wrapping my head around it. We've had like an hour with it.
It's the crazy thing is like I think when I use my heat or something, I'm doing something, then in the middle of me do something, you'll activate heat, and then it's like, oh gosh, now we both have heat.
Yeah.
What's happening next? Like we're not at that level of understanding.
Like characters
yet.
are butting heads and there's lightning bolts everywhere. You're like,
Yeah.
jeez.
And then like you knock someone into rage while they have heat, like, okay, now he's blue and red. You know?
now he's blue and red. We got problems.
Exactly. There's a lot to take in right now, but aggression definitely stands out.
Yeah. So Michael, from the producer perspective, what are your thoughts on how they feel about it? Do you feel like this is the kind of reaction that you wanted?
Yeah, and keep in mind, I mean, I think they've only had about an hour with the game. So even when you're just picking up normal Tekken 7, for example, you need at least an hour just to learn your character's moves and then fight people a lot until it flows naturally like a language, right? I think they're experiencing the same thing, that they've learned the words, but they haven't really been able to make smooth sentences, right? Because it's not been processed enough yet.
Definitely.
It's going to take more time, I think, because there's so many options that you have. Like they said, you have you can go into even different ways you get into heat state, right? The heat burst, or whether you do the heat engager, changes how much you can use. And like Max was saying, you know, maybe he's in the heat state and he doesn't like burn through it as quickly because he doesn't do some of the actions that maybe Rip would do. So even that'll change. And then one thing that they didn't touch on that I think will come in later is, so you have the commonalities that they're mentioning. Like everyone can use heat, everyone can do a heat dash or a heat smash, but when you're in the heat state, each character has unique attributes. Like some of their move properties change, or they have access to new routes, like Max was playing with Lars, you know, earlier. There's new things that you can do when you're in that state. And so I don't think that they've really gotten there yet.
haven't. Not at all.
So
Not at
even
all.
me, you know, sitting down with the game, the team changes stuff so much that it's like, I want to play more, I want to play more, you know?
See,
So-
you just said all that, and now I'm thinking back because in the trailer for Law, there's a movie that has it's his sidestep 3, and it does this like face flop, and then he gets a heat engager DSS forward 1 after, and he charges after him. And I was like, and everyone was like, oh, it's a natural counter hit combo. And I was like, something that's the first thing I tried. I was like, it's not a natural counter combo, but I didn't try it in heat. So now I got to go try it in
Changes the
heat
properties,
to see
yeah.
if it's different like that,
And
which I
that's-
don't know if it is.
That is
Yeah.
the most fun thing about heat. When you're in heat mode, I'll just, even the most basic things, the most standing 1, standing 4s, like mechanic sidesteps, they all change properties. And then it isn't just like a gameplay mechanical change. You get cool visual stuff that also happens at the same time, because you get this big list of heat moves and attacks.
Right.
And my God, man, when you eventually land like the big cash out of the big heat attack in the end, that looks so great.
No, yeah, and then even additionally, we got this like little printout of like heat things you can do. Like there's a little bit of information there. So like I'm looking at, I'm like, wait, what happens there? So it's like I think for Kazuya, I think he gets electrics without having to do electrics.
Yes,
They
Jin and
input time,
Kazuya can do
yeah.
electrics much easier when they're in heat.
Yeah. So then Law has like a gist frame that I didn't saw. Like I saw it in the trailer and I saw the blue sparks, but I thought it meant something else. And now I'm like, oh, it's a gist frame like Paul's demo man. Like that's super cool. So
When
yeah.
it's kind of fun, like even I did this, is you look at the trailers, because that's like Mishi Master and other people that know how to
Yeah.
do it. And then you try to find out how to do it when you get your hands on it, right?
I still haven't figured out one of the moves. Like I saw it in the trailer, like that's the different arm, but I can't find it. So I got to go through the move list. But yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff. Those trailers are really well done. The Law one, I'm telling you, they're messing with me, man. Because I was looking like they didn't put that in the game. I thought they put Law's auto parry back in. It's a new parry. They changed it, so it's cool. They're very good. They know what they're doing.
We sat there and we activated heat mode, and I started doing electrics. I got like 4 in a row. I'm like, damn,
I've got it here, right?
I'm good.
paid
And
off.
Mike's like, those are easier at heat mode. I'm like, oh, still cool.
Well, another thing to expand on that Max was talking about, but also Rip and I were talking about earlier, is, you know, there's ways we can't keep Tekken 7, right? People love the game, but that doesn't justify it being an 8. And all this stuff that we're talking about sounds cool, but maybe some people are like, wow, that's a bit too much. I have a hard time with fighting games already. But I think what's different is, for example, Tag Tournament 2 was a game I loved. There was so much stuff you can do, kind of like with this game, there's so much stuff you can do. But there was so many differences, like you didn't have to, but most people wanted to use 2 characters, and there were all kind of mechanics that were maybe difficult for people who were just new to the game. What's cool about this is, like, we were playing each other, and we weren't even using heat stuff at first. It was just some of our knowledge from 7, although a lot of the new moves and things have changed things. But you can still play the game and have fun with it that way. And then once you've gotten a little bit used to some of the new changes for the characters, then you say, okay, I'm going to add in a heat dash in this combo and see what that will do. Or there's a bit of distance to the wall. Maybe I'll use the heat dash to get them there. And then you start being able to kind of build on top of it. So it's not something you have to know everything to start off. You kind of baby steps, and then you work your way up into it, which is, I think, an important distinction this time.
It's very big. I mean, in Tag 2 as well, like, even if you didn't use 2 characters, you still had to play against 2 characters most of the time, right? So now you're playing against 2 characters, and you're like not familiar with 200 moves now instead of 100 moves each, right? So it was a lot for new players to process. I think the cool thing about Tekken 8 and what you guys have done is, the heat burst is just a single button, right? So no matter what character you use, it's like R1. I'm gonna use R1 now. It's gonna do something cool for me, right? And then after that, it's like I might do a heat dash. And once you start playing with that mechanic by itself, separate from playing the Tekken game like Tekken 7 style, you're like, okay, now I know where this can go, and you just start throwing it into the rest of your Tekken 7 gameplay. So it's pretty interesting, especially because it's every round.
Right. So my question for all 3 of you, because obviously you work on the game, and you are 2 of the people who have you're basically one of the 2 of the first people to get your hands on this game. So for everybody who might either be, Tekken 7 mains who want to look into Tekken 8, or people who have not touched a single Tekken game before, or they're just really new to fighting games in general, what kind of advice on getting into Tekken 8 would you have for them at this moment?
I mean, I think that, like Max was saying, Tekken is always a legacy game, and I think this one carries that tradition on. So if you're playing Tekken 7 right now, everything you learned there is going to transfer over. Like, the combo structure is basically advancing beyond what you learned in Tekken 7. So if you understand the combo structure in Tekken 7, understand the moves, like 90% of that will carry over, and then it's a whole new world in Tekken 8 essentially. So Tekken 7 is actually a really good starting point, I think.
And I'd say for anybody that's new to fighting games, Tekken 8 does a great job in just harnessing people's imaginations, because things look way different. And that's been a big challenge with Tekken, that has had like its structure and bones of what makes Tekken ever since Tekken 5, most people would say. And this is easily the biggest shift in that dynamic between all new character models, all new effects, all new stages, things that dramatically look different than before. That is already inspiring a lot of people, where it's like, man, look at my character, they look so different now, they look so good. So right immediately off the bat, you got like a large amount of casual audience. And for anybody that's like me, I'm embracing the differences and the changes. Like, while I think Rip sees a lot of the similarities with Tekken 7 to Tekken 8, which is absolutely there, I'm seeing just a constant barrage of just like, yeah, that works different, that's the different, that's not the same as before, this is doing something different, well, okay, I can do that, I can do this, and that's exciting to me. Like, because the last thing I want is just the next game to be the exact same thing as the previous game. I want it to feel like a brand new experience, and that's what I'm getting so far.
Yeah, and it is what he says as well, with brand new experience. And one other thing I want to mention, though, for new players is, when you have all these heat engagers now, I remember in the TWT final, the presentation you guys gave, you talk about how, like, if you just look at those, like, 5 moves that they're kind of aiming for, like, you can kind of learn the basics of a character that way.
Right.
That's, like, a great idea, because honestly, like, when you look at Tekken's move list, it's kind of intimidating for most players, right? It's like, 50, you don't know which ones to start with. Now you just look at, okay, those are the 5 heat engages, let's try those ones out and see what those do. And you can kind of build on from there, so that's a really cool addition for new players too.
Speaking of cool additions for new players, did you guys check out the control style that we did, the new one with the L1 that you can do on the fly to do the simplified controls?
I need to, because you can
only
actually,
1 hour so far. We need a couple of tomorrow.
We're still wrapping our heads around like all the different heat combo things. You can actually map whatever attacks you want to those.
Wait,
or is it only specific?
You can't map. It's not like a move list customization or anything. It's like, if you know 7, there was a simplified control method there, right? Where, for example, you push one of the shoulder buttons in conjunction with square would maybe give you a wind god fist right away, or the execution was pretty much eliminated, right? Because it's just assigned to each button. And it's usually the key moves for each character are assigned to those buttons. And usually you kind of piece them together to make a really simple combo, right?
Right.
Well, this time, and you had to set it on or off like before you even went into the mode.
Right.
Right.
Now you can go in the mode and you can do it on the fly. You can switch back and forth between the traditional style or the kind of simplified controls. And the simplified controls, you can even like jam on triangle to do like a rudimentary combo. So it's more like a normal action game.
How do you
feel to
activate it?
Just L1.
L1.
Wow.
And it just goes, yeah.
Interesting.
And it
So
even
if I'm in
kind of,
tournament and I'm stressed out, I'm like, I'm not gonna hit out some easy mode.
you could,
L1 and
you
triangle,
could.
triangle, triangle. Okay.
But you don't have the 80 to 100 moves
Right,
in
right.
that
You're just
instance,
limiting.
right? Right.
Yeah. Interesting.
So, and it even transitions. So like, you know how you have access to new moves when you're in the heat state, right? So that
Oh.
palette actually
Wow.
transitions to that version when you're in heat to give you the better move set
Gotcha.
and et cetera. So it's pretty interesting.
So I have to ask, because everyone's immediately, I'm reading into the minds of everyone that's
Yeah.
watching this. If you map a move or have like a primary attack for a Mishima, the biggest challenge are like electrics.
Right.
And there's the regular, right? And then there's the electric version. I'd imagine it's going to give you the regular version, or can you get like the really powerful ones?
Right. So the game is still, we're tweaking fine details like that, but I believe currently it's the normal when God Fist.
And that makes perfect sense. Like
Right.
that would be, yeah, you still get a cool looking attack.
Right.
But it
Unless
isn't
you're
the-
in heat, and then it's probably
It's
the-
gonna
And then it
Electric,
most likely will be the good one because it's already easier to do
Right.
in heat. That makes a lot more sense.
So, I mean, the main idea is for people who are new to the game, but like you were saying, maybe Rip he doesn't know Lucky Chloe, but he's playing with a friend.
I
and
don't.
he's like,
Sorry,
I want to pick Lucky Chloe, and then he can just turn on L1 and use the most popular moves and get a feel for the character.
Sure.
Maybe
Chloe
he likes
confirmed.
Lucky Chloe and wants to learn her later. Who knows?
You love Lucky Chloe, that's good.
I do actually. She dances very well.
So it's not just for beginners, right? It can be for more advanced people, or who knows, maybe me or a pro player will be in a tournament and they definitely have to hit a certain move that just happens to be mapped to that button. Then they can turn it on in an instant and do the move, right? So we'll see.
I mean, the concern I would have with that is that you'd start feeling like it was like a cheap way out for some tournament level play. So you'd want to see like lower damage or something on it. Like if you used it, it's like, all right, you got that electric, but it was like, 10% lower damage or something. So something to consider.
Obviously, the
For me.
chosen moves, our dev team, we have a balancing team as well who play HR all the time for the character balance. So it'll be up to them to play through all the different combinations and
Right.
instances to make sure that nothing's broken like that.
Cool.
Awesome. Well, we have had a lot of information today, and I have so much appreciation for both of you playing the game and giving us your thoughts because, I mean, like I mentioned,
I just want to go play some more.
like I mentioned,
He's like-
you two are the two of the first people to get your hands on the game. So hearing your insight is really cool for me because for us, we hear it from like a developer perspective. So hearing it from you guys who love fighting games, love Tekken, it's really awesome. I really appreciate it. So thank you so much to both of you for being here today, Max and Rip.
you.
Giving us your feedback and telling us your thoughts on Tekken and really hyping us up for it. Like I got a
Does
lot
it
of hype
itself,
from you.
dude.
Tekken is bringing us into the actual like next generation of fighting games, like true next gen. It's exciting.
Yeah, but we really appreciate you being here. And once again, thank you, Michael, for all of your insight as well, into the development process, into the thought process behind all of these new things for Tekken 8. Thank you so much for being here.
I'm excited, and I just love to be able to tell people about some of the cool stuff we're working on. So
Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
this is just the first Tekken Talk. We have plans to hopefully do this more in the future. So for those of you who are interested in hearing more about Tekken 8, make sure that you tune in next time, and also make sure to join the Tekken Discord, and you can also follow Tekken on Instagram and Twitter as well. So thank you very much, and this is the first Tekken Talk. Let's wrap it up here. Bye, everybody.